Are you looking for Accenture interview questions and answers? Well, you've come to the right place. In the last 13 years, we have trained candidates that are interested in becoming a part of Accenture's massive global organization. In fact, Accenture has grown so astronomically in the last 13 years that they are now one of the world's largest firms in general, and one of the largest consulting firms specifically. With over 600,000 employees, Accenture trains people to do remarkable things. But how do you ace an Accenture interview? How do you get the job that will help prep you for a future of success? We're here to help. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm a former Bain consultant, and my incredible team at Management Consulted will help you join Accenture if that's what you want. But today, we have to first identify what they're looking for in the interview and how to go after the answers. In addition, we're going to talk about specific Accenture interview questions and how you can be prepared to answer them. Let's dive in. But before we do, make sure that you subscribe so that this and other great interview information on Accenture and other top firms will be at the top of your inbox. Okay, now for real, let's dive in. I'm going to go through the 7 most commonly asked questions in an Accenture interview. I'm going to talk about what the questions are and some suggested ideas for how to answer effectively. Question number 1, a question you can expect in absolutely every Accenture interview is, why Accenture? For some reason, people whiff this question as if they weren't prepared for it. So let's just walk through how you answer it in a structured way. First of all, they're looking for a 1-minute answer. What does that mean? Even if you could talk for 5 minutes poetically about Accenture, you need to prep this answer. Number 2, you need to have a plan for how you're going to answer it. What are they looking for? They're looking for a story of how you interacted with someone at Accenture and what they said. Now, here are a couple of the themes that you're going to want to draw out. Accenture talks about transformation and change using technology. So in your why Accenture answer, it should include, I talked to somebody who is from Accenture. They talked about how much they love their work. Their work is rewarding because they help organizations transform and change using technology. So you need to personalize it to you, personalize it to Accenture, but make sure that you're hitting on some of those core themes and do all of that in under 1 minute. No big deal, right? Well, it's harder than it looks. So you might want to make sure that you're practicing before your interview. The second question that you're guaranteed to get in an Accenture behavioral interview is, why are you interested in this role? Why do you want to be an analyst at Accenture? Why do you want to be a partner at Accenture? Well, this has to, again, be answered in 1 minute or less. You might have a lot of ideas for how you want to answer it, but it needs to have a very clear story arc so that you can fit it inside that 1 minute time limit. And here's what your theme should always be. I'm interested in taking the skills that I built in another organization where I use technology to drive change and transformation to solve bigger, hairier problems for larger clients. That's it. What do you need to do to personalize it? Well, tie in the things that you did in your prior roles, whether they were 1-week internships or full internships or entire full-time jobs, to what you want to do with Accenture on a larger global stage. The third question in an Accenture Fit interview is, walk me through your resume. Now, you're basically guaranteed that in almost any interview, Accenture or otherwise, this is a question that you're going to get. What's the good news? Well, walk me through your resume can effectively be the same across any organization. So you're not going to want to tweak it for an Accenture interview. You just want to have this prepped for any interview that you're preparing for. What do you do in walk me through your resume? This is the anomaly out of all the questions. This is the one that you can use 2 minutes to answer for. You want to start out with a personal statement about who you are. You want to move through your education, talk about your work experience, explain the leadership skills and experience that you've worked through, and talk about what's next. In total, again, 2 minutes, polished, prepared, and practiced usually a minimum of 20 times. The fourth most common Accenture interview question is, what is your biggest weakness? When we're teaching this in our seminars at schools or one-on-one, what we talk about is the key red flag areas. So what do you not want to share when you're talking to Accenture about your weakness? Well, you need to at least reframe it if this is your biggest weakness. Number 1, focusing only on the big picture, not on the details. Accenture drives transformation both through strategy and implementation. So if you're only big picture focused, you're not going to get done what they need you to do. Number 2, focusing on independent work instead of teams. If you hint in any way that your weakness is that you like to fly solo, it's not going to go over well at Accenture. Of course, they want you to be an independent worker, but you have to coordinate effectively with teams because you have two teams that you work with: internal Accenture teams and external client teams. And finally, if you don't like using technology, if you're old school and you prefer pen and paper, which you would be surprised what some people say in their Accenture interviews, you're not going to do well here. Why? Accenture thrives off of strategy, identifying gaps in an organization, and implementation, selling custom-built and maintained technology to serve that purpose inside an organization. So if you're not into tech, if you're not into advancing tech, if you're not into currently AI or other things that they're working on, you're not going to work well inside the Accenture culture. Stay away from those red flags. How do you answer this question? Again, 1 minute. You address your weakness directly. Say what it is. Use, in general, soft skills, maturity skills to talk about weaknesses. Talk about what it is, how you identified the weakness in an interaction with someone else. Not, I was in the shower and I thought about this weakness, but somebody told me that this was a growth area for me. It's still a tendency that I have, but here's how I've been working on it. That's how you build a powerful, effective weakness story, acknowledging your weakness truthfully and honestly, but not letting it torpedo your entire interview. The fifth most common Accenture fit interview question is, what are your greatest strengths? Otherwise known as, why should we hire you? What are your greatest strengths is an opportunity for you to lay out 3 strengths. The first one for an Accenture interview should always be technical, tactical, or data analytics focused. My strength is taking data and solving problems, something like that. You can make specific reference to how you've done that, whether it's been in basic programs like Excel or more advanced programs. But your key focus should be, I use data to solve problems. Point number 2 out of your strengths should be something that is a how. It's how you work effectively with other people. I am a proactive communicator. I am a peacekeeper. I am a consensus builder. I am a solutioneer or a problem solver. Right? Something about the how you get things done inside an organization. The third one can be anything that you like. It can be a what, or it can be a how. But make sure you're prepared to talk confidently, directly, with ownership about things that you're good at. Number 6, because Accenture is so focused, in an Accenture fit interview, they're going to ask you, tell me about a difficult time when you had to work with someone that was a challenge for you. What was it like to work with a difficult coworker? How did you figure out how to work with somebody who was hard for you to work with? How was it to work with a difficult boss? Those are the variations of those questions. What they're testing is your ability to resolve conflict without taking something up the chain to HR every single time. You need to talk about what the conflict was, how you were the bigger person, identifying that there was a conflict, and putting some potential solutions on the table, and how you effectively built a forward-looking work relationship with this person. These kind of stories have to begin with a problem and end with a solution. They can't begin with a problem and end with somebody getting fired. So you need to make sure that it's a happy ending story, and again, told in only 1 minute. The final question that you're likely to get asked in an Accenture behavioral interview is, what sets Accenture apart from other organizations? This is a little bit different than why Accenture for you. It's why Accenture in general. What is this testing for? It's testing to see whether you really buy in to the mission and vision of Accenture, and whether ultimately in the future you have potential to be a partner for Accenture, someone who sells their skills and abilities to other organizations. Again, in 1 minute, you should be prepared to talk about how you learned about Accenture, what you understand they do, and how you believe that's differentiated from other organizations. About 20 seconds for each of those pieces. If you prepare these 7 questions for an Accenture interview, you're going to be ready to knock it out of the park. Why? Under 50% of people do any preparation at all. Many other people do ineffective preparation. And so if you prepare in this way, you're going to be ready to succeed in an Accenture interview. And if you want help, Management Consulted can do that for you. You can work with our coaches in a one-on-one session where we ask you these questions, give you feedback on your answers, and give you opportunities to rework them on the fly so that you can practice them in a very time-effective format. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you're interested in more help, please reach out directly either via social or team@managementconsulted.com.